Man, it's hard to tell.
Oh, this is probably the greatest thing to ever be shown on TV, ever.
You all right?
Woo! Best day of my life.
After being swept by the Indians to start their two-city road trip, the Sox muscled up a proper response, taking 3 of 4 from a strong Red Sox side in Boston. The Blue Jays were happy to see that. They're looking up in the AL East. Toronto's in town today looking for a little payback after being swept by the Sox north of the border back in April. We welcome you to U.S. Cellular Field, where it's business in the front, party in the back. Mullet night tonight at the Ball-Yard as the Sox welcome in their foes from north of the border, the Toronto Blue Jays. Good evening. Welcome in once again. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone along with you. The Sox in that first game in Toronto back in April trailed big, but came back with a fury and ended up sweeping this pretty good Blue Jays side.
Last time we saw this team north of the border, all was beautiful as far as the Sox were concerned, and Toronto was having some problems. Take a look at the different players. As you can see, disabled and no longer with the team, Rollins, Jackson, Danks, Latos, Petrichka, and Putnam. Jose Bautista, the big bopper, is on the disabled list, but since April 27th, the Sox 20-31, and since that same date, the Blue Jays 30-21. This team is starting to get it done. They're doing it with offense, but we've got some pretty good pitching tonight.
Yeah, talented young pitcher for Toronto named Aaron Sanchez.
It's a battle of first-round draft choices. Aaron Sanchez for them, Carlos Rodon for us. Sanchez has a big sinker. He throws it 97 miles an hour. He's got a good curveball to go with it. 7-1 this year. He's made 14 starts, 11 of them quality starts. You see the movement there. This young man can really get it done, and all they're worried about is the amount of innings he's going to pitch. Carlos Rodon on the other side of the equation lately doesn't have much to show for it, but he does have a 2.92 ERA in his last couple of starts. The big numbers, you see the 3 walks, the 15 strikeouts. Don Cooper is working with him. He's trying to get him to get ahead. That's been one of the problems this year. We'll see if he can do it tonight.
He's got 5 straight quality starts at home, Carlos Rodon does, and he will face the Blue Jays coming up shortly from U.S. Cellular Field. Join us.
Sox baseball on CSN Chicago is brought to you in part by Toyota. Discover more in a Toyota. Visit buyatoyota.com or your local Toyota dealer today. Let's go places. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois. Through it all. Audi. Truth in engineering. And by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV.
Sox are back home to make music here at U.S. Cellular Field. Game number 1 of a 6-game homestand in the course of 7 days with an off day in between. And we're glad to have you along for the ride as the Blue Jays are in town. Toronto at 40-34 is in 3rd place in the stacked American League East, as Carlos Rodon leads the Sox out of the dugout. They are 36-37. They're 6 games behind first place Cleveland in the American League Central. 2 behind Detroit for 3rd place, 3 behind Kansas City for 2nd place. Starting lineup for Toronto, and John Gibbons goes like this. It's a very powerful club, 3rd in Major League Baseball in home runs. They're without Jose Bautista. He has turf toe. Saunders has been hitting the ball very well in the 4 spot. So has Pilar in the 7 position, .350 in his last 15.
The Cricket Wireless defensive setup, and how Robin's going to line him up behind Carlos Rodon, Melky Cabrera, J.B. Shuck, and Adam Eaton in the outfield with Saladino, Anderson, Lowry, and Todd Frazier at first base tonight. It's Alex Avila behind the plate, and our Lexus Pursuing Perfection starting pitcher is Carlos Rodon. Lately, the control's been a bit better. He's 2-6, but he's thrown better than that recently. Right-handers have hurt him, hitting .309 against him. Left-handers haven't done much.
Well, the Sox are facing a Blue Jays team that has played very well recently since May 19th. 3rd best winning percentage in Major League Baseball, 2nd best in the American League. That hot Texas club at 47-26. But Toronto getting Troy Tulowitzki back in the lineup. They lose Bautista for a while. But as we noted when we were in Toronto earlier this year, we know the hitting's going to be there.
Well, the surprising thing for them is that Michael Saunders, 1, has stayed healthy, and 2, when he is healthy, he's played as well as he has. Plus, this year, unlike so many other years, he's hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He's also hitting cleanup for them. So, where the Sox held him at bay in Toronto, let's see how this plays out tonight behind Rodon, who's going to try to throw strike 1.
That has been something of an issue this year for Carlos, as he will go against Ezequiel Carrera, the left-hander who's hit lefties to the tune of .441 this year.
Ezekiel's got good speed. You've got to always watch the bunt when he's up.
First pitch is a strike tonight from U.S. Cellular Field from Rodon to Carrera, who's very dangerous to that left side of the infield. He can shoot that gap between 3rd and shortstop. And strike 2.
For Carlos Rodon, throwing a first pitch strike has been problematic. He's done it just over 50% of the time, and that is last of 141 qualified starters.
He got 3 strikes there on Carrera, getting him to chase out of the zone on 0-2. And you were talking about this earlier. Get ahead. That gives your wipeout pitch some legs.
And that's what Don Cooper's been working with him, to get him to get ahead so that when he throws this, and nobody hits it, doesn't matter left-hander or right-hander, that wipeout slider, usually 87 to 90 miles an hour, and it's out of the strike zone, which is wonderful when you're ahead and not very good when you're behind.
1 down for Donaldson, who's got a hit in 13 of his last 14 games coming in. There's ball 1 from Carlos. Toronto's lost 3 of 4 on the way into this game. Ball and a strike.
Last 14 games, Josh Donaldson, who usually hits them real well, is hitting them especially well. .415. He's homered 4 times, tripled 3 times, doubled 6 times, and driven in 16 while scoring 18. So you look at the OPS and it's staggering.
And in the 2 spot, which, you know, there's been a lot of research done, where do you put your best hitters in the lineup? It seems like, at least currently with what people are looking at, the 2 spot is where you want to have at least one of your best hitters.
And he's in the 2 spot whether Bautista's in it or not. And so they've decided that even though Josh Donaldson, an MVP, has hit everything in sight, they've decided the 2 spot is where he's most comfortable. Last year he hit 297, only hit 41 home runs, drove in 123. So the 9-1 hitters have gotten on base.
In the air, right-hand side, Todd Frazier playing first base today. And 2 away. I was talking to Todd very briefly before the game. Said, when's the last time you played first? His answer was, I think 3 years ago. When it starts with I think.
Well, yeah, it's a good thought process, but the fact is he's got great hands. The hands translate, but it's a completely different position because quite obviously left-handers you have to worry about when they pull the ball, it's going to be hooking toward the line. But the problem is right-handers who slice the ball that way because many times you can't read the spin.
What do you think about giving him a new look defensively, possibly helping him at the plate? Anything to that?
I think anything you can do to change up a guy that's really struggled, you do it and see what happens.
Encarnacion, a massive pull hitter, has a count 1-1 on him.
And here's the guy that has been red hot. He's driven in 62 runs, and he's done it with a lot of line drives and will hit the ball out of the park. However, he will go out of the strike zone, as Carlos saw there. So keeping the ball near the zone and not falling too far behind these hitters is going to serve him well if he continues to do that tonight.
Well, as a team, Toronto has struck out a bunch this year. 603 times, 19th in baseball. 1-2. And he gets him swinging, strike 3. There goes the bat, and there go the Blue Jays. In order in the first. No score after a half inning from Chicago. In Boston, they took 3 of 4 from the Red Sox, and the lineup looks rather similar with one omission. Abreu is out, getting a scheduled day off today. Anderson, Eaton, Cabrera at the top, all the way down to Saladino getting his first start in 10 games.
The Cricket Wireless defensive setup and how John Gibbons is going to run them out there. It's Cabrera, Pilar, and Junior Lake, the former Cub, in the outfield. With Donaldson, Tulowitzki, Travis, and Encarnacion in the infield, Russell Martin gets a nod behind the plate, and our Lexus Pursuing Perfection starting pitcher is former #1 draft pick, Aaron Sanchez. Big, hard-throwing right-hander, 6'4", 220, 7-1 this year. ERA, 3.35. He's got a very good curveball and a great sinker, and that sinker plays regardless of where he pitches.
Tim Anderson, first pitch, hunting, flicks it out to right field. And Lake for out #1.
I saw Junior Lake play in the Arizona Fall League. He was a shortstop in those days and a very promising farmhand to the Chicago Cubs. They gave him a couple opportunities, but he never really came to fruition there. Now he shifts over. They moved him to the outfield. He's got good speed, and he made a good play on that slicing line drive.
Just up from AAA Buffalo today with Daryl Siciliani sent down to the International League before the game. As Eaton takes ball number 1 from Sanchez, the former first-round pick.
Not surprising that he's going to give up some line drives early. That's what happens to sinker ballers early in the game when they're overly strong.
Why is that?
Normally a sinker baller depends on getting spin on the ball, and that spin gives it kind of a downward motion when it releases off his hand, and they have to get a feeling for it. They have too much adrenaline early, and even though they can be successful first couple of innings, where in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th innings they get ground balls early before that thing sinks, while they're throwing a fastball a couple miles an hour faster than they will later, you hit line drives off them. That's why this is their most vulnerable spot.
1-2 for Eaton. He had a breaking ball to Adam.
That's a good curveball, which is really the equalizer. It's not only does Sanchez throw 97-98, but he's got a great curveball. Take a look at this. Late spin, breaks down. Adam able to fight it off somehow.
Boy, that was really harsh curveball.
It's a biter, and it breaks late. The tighter the spin, the harder it is for the hitter to read, and that's one of the reasons why that late breaking, real tight spin curveball, almost impossible to hit if you get it in the zone.
Grounded foul by Eaton. Remember Dwayne Ward, right?
I do.
Hitters always said he had one of the best curveballs they'd seen.
If you can't pick it up out of the pitcher's hand, if you can't identify it as a curveball, you're probably not going to have much luck. And the guys with the tightest spins, even if it's a slower curveball, are more successful.
Pitch number 7 coming to Eaton. And it's high. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
Outfield playing him as an off-field hitter. That's why if Sanchez gets a little careless with the curveball, that's a ball that he can drive into right center. We pan around, show you the defense, and there's the gap.
3-2. Flip foul again by Adam Eaton. Well, Adam has taken very well to this 2 spot, wouldn't you say?
I would say every aspect you care to quantify, Adam Eaton has excelled in the 2 spot. So this is a natural spot for him because he can pull it when he has to.
Can't go the opposite way with a foul ball or 2.
What I like about him is that he gives you tough at bats. Here's an example. This is going to be at the minimum a 10-pitch at bat. So you want to see Sanchez picking up as many pitches as he can early. This is still a very young pitcher. They're still concerned about his innings pitched, still concerned about the amount of pitches he makes in any one performance.
3-2 one more time. Strike 3 to Eaton.
Gabe Morales is going to call him up there. It's going to be a tough day for the hitters because at 97, take a look at where this one shows up on the Honda pitch tracks. You see what Russell Martin thought of it. You watch his glove, and he caught it with the glove down, tried to pull it a little bit into the zone. Adam Eaton thought it was high, and he might have a case.
So a lengthy at bat, number 10 takes care of Eaton, and Melky Cabrera in the 3 spot with Abreu out today. Ball number 1. Through the left side, Melky the opposite way for a 2-out single. Say about our picks to click for tonight. Our crew here at home goes with Avi Garcia, Melky Cabrera, Steve Stone.
I
just
picked
made
him,
that selection
I picked
a moment
him
ago.
after the base hit, of course.
And Tyler Saladino. Oh, I like that. You're not taking the high road. Saladino for me, and I will trail, it seems, for the entire season.
That was a high fastball. Once again, throwing it up in the zone for a sinker baller is going to yield some hard hit balls. It's 2 of 3 that have been hit hard.
Frazier a pop up, first base side, and out of play.
A long talk with John Gibbons before our series in Toronto, and he was talking about his ball club, and they were struggling at the time. Things weren't going very well. Yes, they were hitting, but they weren't doing a whole lot else. But he said, look, this is a good team. That this team is going to play. I'm not worried about them playing. I'm really not worried about them staying in the race, assuming that whoever is going to be ahead of us doesn't just take off and run away. He said, if this can bunch up for a bit, we're going to be there. And he's proven to be prophetic as they come in 2.5 games back.
Yeah, that's exactly where they find themselves in a bunched up top 3.
I mean, you take a look at the last 10. Baltimore's 5-5. Boston is 4-6. Toronto 6-4. New York 4-6. Tampa 3-7. So nobody's going anywhere for the time being, and the division is stagnant, which allows Toronto to try to regroup and get back in the middle of the race, which they've done.
Breaking ball for strike 3. And Sanchez gets himself out of a slightly bumpy first inning. No score. Joins us. Hi, Dan. It's been a while.
It has.
What you got for us today?
Jose Abreu, this is only the second time, I know you guys probably mentioned this, out of the lineup all season. Tightness in both legs and the hamstring. Robin Ventura said it's pretty much a mandatory day off. He said there was a little bit of tightness in the right leg. The left leg is even a little bit worse. So Robin's hopeful that this one day off will get him out of it. He said he hopes he may use him as a pinch hitter later, but you know, basically they need to rest him. He could not play tonight. They didn't even want to put him as a DH. So between that, you know, the getting hit in the left leg, basically Abreu basically said, hey, this is mandatory too. I'm looking at the bigger picture. Sometimes you have to realize you need the day off.
What's the latest on Zach Putnam?
Second option today. It sounds basically the same. They're exploring their options. Rick Hahn said that surgery is one of those options. Really no time frame. They're kind of going to weigh these options for a little bit here and come up with a decision.
So second opinion from the doctor today is what
right,
happened?
and it's neural uritis, I believe, is they put him on the disabled list the other day. Obviously, it's a tricky thing. They're not sure what they're going to do with him, and with Putnam and Petrichka already out for the season and Webb out for the season. Obviously, this is a tough decision for the White Sox. Robin Ventura said we're going to kind of use Noah. We're going to have to use Chris Beck in critical situations. That's just the way it is right now with our bullpen.
All right, Dan Hayes. Well done.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks for stopping by. That's Dan Hayes, our CSN insider, with some news on Abreu, Putnam, and the like. And Steve, you and I have talked about it before. As Abreu gets a day off, some days over the course of a season, you just need to have one of those built in.
Well, he's a big man, and he did get hit awfully hard in Boston by Robbie Ross. But you'd have to figure that playing just about every day is taking a bit of a toll. A day off every now and then is going to keep you sharp, and lately the big man's been hitting it well.
Fouled away by Saunders, who's hitting .304. By the way, you can follow Dan Hayes, our White Sox insider, all season long on CSNChicago.com. Presented by The Great Escape. Pools, patio furniture, hot tubs, and more. Escape your everyday. Shop The Great Escape.
Saunders was hurt a lot of last year. Only played in 34 games for Toronto.
Left field, Melky Cabrera on the retreat, has to play it off the wall, and Saunders is into second base with double number 19.
Toronto is absolutely praying that Michael Saunders can stay healthy for any length of time, because when he's healthy, he is a very good offensive player. He gets a fastball out away, even though it's 97, he hits the daylights out of it. Melky does the best he can do, playing to carry him off the wall, getting it back in, making it close at second, but nothing doing. And Saunders continues his assault on left-hand pitching.
He's had an assault on pretty much all the pitching this year. And you said it, when he's healthy, look out.
It's just keeping him healthy that's been the key over the course of his career, because he's been a pretty good player wherever he's gone.
Now Russell Martin takes a strike. Carlos Rodon.
Martin's been around long enough to know that he's got to get this ball to the right side. First of all, they're playing him as a pull hitter. You got Laurie playing up the middle, basically. Todd Frazier wide of the bag at first, and a big gap on the right side.
Two strikes on Martin, who had 7 straight games with an RBI between June 9th and the 16th. That was right around when the Blue Jays, we started looking at the highlights and the scores from around baseball, and they were putting figures, just dousing opponents. The Phillies came into Toronto and got hammered.
Well, a lot of people felt that they overpaid for Russell Martin, but they knew that he was going to be one of the cornerstones of their franchise, because he handles pitchers very well and can swing the bat. Still trying to take it to the right side.
Two strikes from Carlos to Martin with Tulowitzki on deck, then Kevin Pillar. Saunders at second. Nobody out second inning in the series opener. Swing and a miss for strike 3. Third punch out in 5 batters for the kid from NC State.
He cut this ball in on his hands, and at 86, a radical departure from the 97 he's been throwing. So this is a good hard slider. It didn't go down. He didn't try for depth. He wanted to keep it in on his hands, make sure that if he hit it to the left side. And at the resolution of that at bat, he wanted to see Saunders at second base, and all of that happened.
That's where we stand. 1 down. Saunders still there, and Tulowitzki, the batter. Troy Tulowitzki, who was on the disabled list from late May to mid this month with a quad strain, his right quad. Former Colorado Rocky.
He had been remarkably durable for a guy that had a lot of injuries with the Rockies. He was remarkably durable when he came over to the Toronto Blue Jays.
You know, after they got him last year, he only hit .239 after coming over from Colorado. He slugged about 100 points better with the Rockies, and you might expect that. I don't think they expected as drastic of a change.
I don't think he made an error in a Blue Jay uniform last year. So for that team that could really scored 891 runs. He shored up the defense. He was the guy that came in, put everything together in the defense, and for that, they didn't care that much what he didn't hit. They needed somebody to catch a ball and turn the double plays.
Outside and low that time, so 3 balls, no strikes on Tulowitzki.
Tough decision, by the way, for Colorado, because he was the face of their franchise.
got a pretty good core of home run hitters now. Arenado, Trevor Story, although Story has not been necessarily the same as the first month of the season, as Tulowitzki takes a walk. By the way, did you look at the home run leaders today? Adam Duvall from Cincinnati has 21 now, with Frazier and Trumbo and Arenado.
It's probably the biggest surprise out of everything that's happened this year. Certainly right up there with them. You were to say before the All-Star break, who would be tied at 21? Duvall's name probably wouldn't have been there. Not Frazier might have been, though, because he had a great first half last year.
He said today, we were joking around the batting cage, he said, I might have 50 homers and 10 doubles. How does that happen? Inside for ball one to Kevin Pillar with the double play in order. One down in the second inning.
Pillar is another one of those guys that's a defensive specialist. He's one of the most entertaining center fielders to watch. I mean, this guy can go get him. A lot like Kevin Kiermaier in Tampa Bay. They can both throw a lot of leather on you.
2-0 and a visit coming from Alex Avila to his left-hander.
Looked like he might have slid with the front foot there and lost his balance. So he's trying to smooth things out on his landing area. Where the control was pinpoint in that first inning. Hasn't been so here, and now Gabe Morales going out there to try to break it up. As Alex Avila will give him a couple of words of wisdom, trying to get his confidence back. And one of the things the catcher will leave you with here is throw a ground ball. Yourself a double play, get out of the inning.
Two balls, no strikes. Tulowitzki at first. Saunders at second. In there for strike one. Mentioned the Jays with the third most home runs in Major League Baseball. They also have 129 doubles, which is top 7 in the majors. Center field, Shuck on the run, has to play it on a hop. Here comes Saunders, and he's safe. The Jays are on the board on the RBI single from Kevin Pillar.
I'm not sure how Pillar got to that one, but it was well out of the strike zone, and yet he just reached out, delivers his 30th run batted into the year. Take a look at where this one shows up.
The RBI single from Pillar. Tulowitzki to second, Don Cooper to the mound. Saladino, some final thoughts for Carlos Rodon. Here's Devin Travis, the second baseman for Toronto, in just his 25th game because of injury this year. Talented young infielder. Takes outside.
This is a guy that had some shoulder problems, really the thing that set him back. But when healthy, he's another one of those guys that is a two-way player. He can swing it certainly well enough, and he's a good defender.
High in the air right side. Eaton on the run into foul territory. And out number 2.
Time now for the greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile. And we talked about Toronto Blue Jays and their home runs. Baltimore is 1, Mariners 2. Blue Jays sitting in the 3rd spot with, surprisingly, the Tampa Bay Rays in the 4th spot.
Do the Mariners exist, by the way? Are they on the schedule at all for the year? They haven't been here. We haven't gone there. This unbalanced schedule, sometimes you go months without seeing a team.
You just as soon get there before King Felix gets back. And I don't think that he will be back by the time the Sox do head to the Northwest.
It'll be not long after the All-Star break. The Sox will be in Los Angeles for the Angels in Seattle. One strike to Junior Lake, who hit .244 with the AAA club in Western New York on his third major league team. Nothing in 2. So a leadoff double from Saunders, a strikeout, a walk, Pilar the RBI single, and here we stand in a 1-0 Blue Jays lead in the series opener. Swinging strike 3, so Carlos Rodon has 6 outs. 4 have been via the strikeout, and the Jays lead 1-0.
To Miller time later in the game, brought to you by Miller Lite.
Hey, calling all deadheads, the White Sox invite you out to U.S. Cellular Field Tuesday, July 5th, as we pay tribute to the Grateful Dead. With the purchase of your Grateful Dead Tribute Night ticket, you'll receive a specially designed White Sox Grateful Dead t-shirt. To purchase this special package, visit whitesox.com/Grateful Dead. And I believe I just set the Major League record for most times saying Grateful Dead in one live read.
I remember the Grateful Dead.
The Grateful Dead?
Yeah, you're talking about the Grateful Dead. Yeah,
the Grateful Dead. So 1-0. Toronto with the lead here in the home second. It's Avila, Laurie, and Shuck against Sanchez. Right-hander out of the great state of California misses for ball 1 to Alex, who has seen Sanchez once. He is 0 for 1.
Last year he was used a great deal out of the bullpen. They were concerned about his durability. It was his second shot at the major leagues. He'd been up in 2014 also, where he was used exclusively as a reliever.
In 24 games that year, had a 1.09 ERA, 4 earned runs in 33 innings in 2014.
All things considered, that's pretty good.
Even considering just some of the things, it's pretty good.
You take a look at the numbers, and they've been very good.
3 balls, no strikes on Alex to lead off this second.
And last year, when he worked both as a starter, he had 11 of them in 41 appearances. One thing he had trouble with was the strikeout to walk ratio. He had 61 strikeouts and 44 walks.
Now this year, one has gone north and one has gone south, and the right one each time. 89 strikeouts coming in, 31 walks.
I think he feels much more comfortable being a full-time starting pitcher, as most guys who have been starters most of their careers feel.
Tough to go back and forth. I mean, there is something to that.
Oh, you have to stretch out if you're going to be a starter, but also you can stay on a regular routine as a starting pitcher. As a reliever, you're in that bullpen. You can be used anytime, any day. You can be used consecutive days you don't really know. So for guys who really like patterns and rhythms in the game, being a starter is what you want to do.
You like patterns? You into quilting?
Yes, in fact, I have to tell you that I frequently go to quilting bees.
You do?
Oh, they're really. A lot of people think they're boring, but they are misled. They are sometimes uproariously funny.
I've heard that, you know, in certain circles.
Yeah, you remember Aunt Bee?
She was a lovely lady. On the ground and past the dive. Leadoff single for Alex Avila.
Coming on the heels of a 4-hit game in Boston, Avila just took it right up the middle for the most part. Donaldson can't get to it. That's one of the things that I'm always surprised at. When they put a shift on, instead of leaving the shortstop at shortstop, which is where he plays, they put the third baseman at shortstop. Third baseman can't have as much range as your shortstop, or he'd be your shortstop. But managers do that, and sometimes it costs you base hits.
It may have right there. Brett Lawrie takes ball 1. Certain managers do it, right? But
most guys will, a lot of guys will leave their shortstop at shortstop, make the third baseman move into playing straightaway second base, and put your second baseman on the outfield grass somewhere in short right. But that allows your shortstop to cover the same ground he normally can cover.
The assumption being he's there in that spot because of his range in large part.
Almost without exception, your shortstop will have the best range in your infield, followed closely by your second baseman. Then you go to the corners.
Ball to strike on Lawrie. 1-2, just nipped the corner.
A little unhappy with the call of Gabe Morales. He's shown a very big strike zone. He's shown a very pitcher-friendly strike zone tonight. So the hitters better be appraised of swinging if it's close.
1-2. Breaking ball, tag through the left side. That one stayed up for Lawrie, and he's got the second straight Sox hit.
Take a look at the location of this one, and you see why it's hit. It is a curveball that doesn't do much. It just comes up there spinning. And Brett, with 2 strikes, very much in defensive mode, gets a hanging curveball into left field.
And it hits Darryl Boston.
Well, he deserves a smack in the chest.
So J.B. Shuck in the 7th spot in the order has first and second, nobody out. A situation where you may think about bunting.
I know Donaldson thinks so. He's well in on the grass at third.
Not here. Shuck the grounder. Tulowitzki safe at first. Avila to third. 1 down.
Troy Tulowitzki thinking about taking himself all the way because he doesn't want to flip to Travis. He was as close to the bag as Travis was, and he comes across. J.B. Shuck hustling down the line and able to beat the play. So runners at the corners and only 1 out.
Yeah, it was pretty much no man's land for Tulowitzki.
If he flips it, they're not going to get him anyway, so you might as well eliminate that one chance of having the ball mishandled. Take it yourself.
First and third for Avi Garcia, who's been a very good hitter this year for the Sox with runners in scoring position. He's down a strike.
There's one of those 97-mile-an-hour sinkers that's almost impossible to square up. If you hit the ball at all, you hit the top of the ball, and it usually produces a ground ball.
Avi trying to avoid that result.
Laid off that one out of the zone. Look at those numbers. You were alluding to the fact that he's done it in the clutch this year.
And scoring position in 2 out. I know that's not the current situation, but scoring position in 2 out, he's 10 for 22. That's .455.
That's pretty impressive.
You can debate over and over again what something like that says about a player, but the thing speaks for itself, at least this year.
That's what most of the guys are looking for. The guys in that dugout, they're looking for somebody who can come through consistently with runners in scoring position. And although the batting average doesn't look like much this year, those 2 stats are very impressive for Garcia.
Went through that swing. Ball and 2 strikes. Well, the scouting report said 97 would sink.
And that's exactly what the last 3 pitches were.
Avila at third, Shuck at first. On back-to-back singles to start the inning. Then the fielder's choice for Shuck. 1 and 2 from Sanchez. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
You can see where Sanchez would be a dominant reliever if he chose that path. And coming into this year in 54 career games as a reliever, ERA 167. Opponent's batting average 151. That probably because he can actually throw it harder out of the bullpen because he's facing fewer hitters.
Goes with some more heat at 97 and gets his 3rd strikeout. Sanchez does. 2 down in the inning.
In the first inning, one of these would have been up. But this inning, finally he's getting the sink that he normally has. And as you see, the entire at bat was either bottom of the strike zone or out of the zone.
Which tells you what about how Sanchez is feeling?
Well, now he's settled in. And now all of a sudden that sinker, which is his best weapon, is starting to sink.
2 out for Saladino. 98 on the fastball. 1-0 to Tyler, whose last start came here at U.S. Cellular Field 10 days ago against Detroit.
He's got a couple of wild pitches this year. Russell Martin normally pretty good at digging the ball out. He'll have his hands full with 97 if one happens to find its way in the dirt.
Ball, no strikes. On the ground, and Encarnacion to subdue the Sox rally. 2 hits, no runs. 1-0 after 2.
Throughout the game, use the hashtag White Sox Talk on Twitter. Be sure to follow at CSN White Sox all season long for the latest news and your favorite team. You use Twitter quite a bit.
You do too.
I do.
You've been tweeting at the nice folks who like you very much.
Yes, I have to admit that I have met some lovely people on Twitter. They get very emotional, by the way.
The Twitter people do. It's a little bit of a soap opera. Yeah. Susan Lucci would be fantastic on Twitter. Maybe she is.
But she'd never win an Emmy.
She's been trying for a long time. Didn't she finally win though?
Yes.
In the air, right field, Adam Eaton charging and scoring out number 1. By the way, if anybody out here watching our game is a Royals fan, cover your ears. There are Jays fans here. The Royals are down 9-0 in the top of the 2nd inning with nobody out and the bases loaded for the Astros.
Well, but that's deceiving.
It is.
Because there's a long way to go, as you probably know. And they are getting good news tomorrow, by the way. Alex Gordon likely to be activated tomorrow. So the Royals are starting to get their team back, although, as we know, Moustakas is out for the year. But that's going to help them, but nothing's going to help them tonight.
And 9-0. Not so good. Base hit for Donaldson. 1 on, 1 out.
Last year, this Blue Jays team hit 232 home runs. And the big three of Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion hit 120 of those, which is just under 52%. So John Gibbons, in his big threesome, missing one piece, Jose Bautista, had some thumpers.
Bautista out with that toe injury. He's in a walking boot for a couple of weeks. And then they will reevaluate and see when he can come back. There are his numbers.
Yeah, this year he was doing okay. And I say okay for him. 12 home runs, 41 driven in through 65. That is okay for him. The batting average down, the OPS up. And he usually draws his walks. But more than that, what's important about his presence in the lineup is if you're going to pitch against them, you're going to worry about him. Whether he does it or not, he's always a concern for you, and he's always dangerous. So you can't be misled by the 230 batting average, because his presence in the lineup makes him a much, much deeper lineup and a much better lineup.
Well, you talked about what kind of at-bats he puts together and the amount of times he walks. This team is number 1 in baseball right now in pitches seen per plate appearance. So that first pitch single for Donaldson is something of a rarity for this group on the whole, as Avila stabs ball 3.
One of the big reasons why they see a lot of pitches is they have a lot of guys that pitchers are afraid of. You see 4.03 pitches per plate appearance. Surprisingly, the Brewers second by the Mets, and our Sox in the 10 spot.
Strike 2, and that's something of a departure from the past couple of years for the Sox. They haven't been as patient of a club offensively as they have been this season.
Well, they've added a couple guys that are looking at more pitches. Alex Avila is going to see a whole lot of pitches in his at-bats. Adam Eaton sees a lot of pitches in his at-bats. Of course, he was here last year, but in a different spot now with a different responsibility in the 2 spot.
His responsibility is to his bubble gun, seemingly, right now.
Still playing Gold Glove outfield. That was a cutter that, fortunately, Carlos got away with. That was in the Encarnacion sweet spot.
Three and 2. Donaldson holds. Strike 3 called on the outside corner.
That pitch had the corner. A perfect pitch by Carlos Rodon. Encarnacion thought he was going to take a walk. Gabe Morales thought it had the corner, and Encarnacion for the second time down on strikes. Only this one looking.
64 strikeouts now for Encarnacion, as Saunders, who scored the game's only run, comes up with Donaldson at first, 2 down. By the way, as we mentioned that Royals score, it is now 10-0 Houston, and the line for Edinson Volquez, 1 inning, 8 hits, 10 runs, 9 earned, 3 walks.
Well, fortunately, that one was unearned. His ERA would really balloon.
Be a really tough day. Broken bat. Shattered rally. Frazier dodges the lumber. He's going to not want to go back to first base after that. Top of the order coming for the Sox. Anderson, Eaton, Cabrera. They're on the way after this.
At first base. And one of the things you're responsible for is not getting hit before somebody throws you a baseball. And Todd Frazier looking at the bat going, wait, oh, that's it. I got to get to the bag. But first, let me get out of the way of the flying bat head before I tag first base. And he's able to do both.
Yeah, he said before the game that you have a load of time at first base. Time to think, time to get yourself ready. It's a little different than third base. But he didn't imagine it would be to avoid playing equipment that he needed that time.
Dodging flying bats.
Strike 1 to Tim Anderson, who flied out on the first pitch he saw in the first inning.
So this is not a particularly piece of good news, but Sanchez's sinker is now really sinking.
It's strike 3.
Here's an example of it. It wasn't there in the first inning when the Sox had a chance. It wasn't there to start the second inning when the Sox had a chance. But now it's there, and it's going to be a little more difficult. So Carlos Rodon got to hold him that 1 run, and the Sox are going to hope they can drag a few across.
Is that how you start conversations with people normally? Now, this isn't a particularly piece of good news.
Yeah, you're not going to be happy with this, but let me explain it to you.
I thought you were going to break up with me. I didn't know what was happening there.
No, then I have to take you off my dependent list on my income tax returns.
Start writing 1 instead of 2 or 0 instead of 1. Ball to strike on Eaton, who had a long at bat first time around. Left field foul from Eaton. Sox have scratched out 3 hits, all singles so far against Sanchez. 1-2. That ball was tailing away from Eaton. Still 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Hit a long at bat in the first inning. Wound up in a called third that was questionable, but made Sanchez throw a lot of pitches.
Breaking ball stayed up. Eaton, a fly ball to right. Lake is at the warning track. 2 away in the third.
Sanchez curveball has not been great so far. This one comes up rolling, and hitters judge that very well. Adam just missed it. Bidding for his 4th home run, but Junior Lake feeling for the fence, able to haul it in with a couple of feet to spare.
There was a kid at the College World Series who was going back on a fly ball. I think it was in one of the Florida games. Going back on a fly ball and ran directly into the fence. Did not feel the fence at all and just went head first into the thing, and the ball left the yard.
Usually come in second when you run into the fence.
The undefeated, still champion fence. 2-0 for Melky, who singled back in the first. Right field again. Lake is back. It's over his head. He got a late break on it, and Melky Cabrera scoots into second base. 2-out double for Melky.
Toughest ball to handle for any outfielder is one hit right at you. And that time he couldn't get to it. So Melky 2 for 2 as Lake goes up. Just misses it. And Melky in scoring position. 17th double of the year.
Leaving it for Frazier, who struck out in the first on 3 pitches. That happens here. We have a change in the rules. He takes ball 1. Junior Lake was playing both right field and center field in AAA, but predominantly right field. This is first game in the majors this year.
That last one was a tough ball to handle. He just missed it, but it was hit right over his head, so he couldn't get an angle on it. Then you have to just trust if it's a sinking line drive or is that one taking off. That one happened to take off over his head.
2-0. Pulled to third. Donaldson waits for it and guns out Frazier to finish the deal in the third. Sox get a runner on for the 3rd straight inning. Can't score. 1-0 for the 4th. The Burley family. Here's the clubhouse for the game. Little Burley enjoying it.
What a long and a great career he had, and one of the most, if not the most, beloved players on his White Sox team in his years here. Nothing changed when he went to the Marlins and later the Blue Jays.
Mark and Jamie taking in the game. You mentioned his travels after he left Chicago. He won 214 games, 201 of which came with these two clubs. Nice play, Saladino for out number one to Rob Martin.
What an outstanding effort by Tyler Saladino as he dives toward the line, knows he has a little time even though he can't corral it right away. But with Russell Martin going down the line, he just pours it across. And it isn't even all that close at first base. That's a wonderful effort by Tyler Saladino, who seems to give you a good defensive effort wherever he's played.
His mustache also celebrating mullet night here at the ballpark.
If you had a mullet with that mustache, that would be a really good look.
Did you mean to say good?
Oh, good. Oh, absolutely.
Just checking.
By the way, you were probably sitting there asking yourself,
yeah,
since Brandon Inge did it in 2004, who was the first player who tripled and homered in the same inning? I know you were, but I'll save you the effort. George Springer from Houston tonight.
Wow.
Triple and a homer in the same inning.
That doesn't sound like it's gone terribly well for the Royals recently since we last checked.
No.
Three balls, no strikes on Tulowitzki. Yeah, it's 12-0, though they are out of the top of the second inning as Tulowitzki sees his first strike of the night in 8 pitches.
I was just talking to one of the scouts before the game, and there's a number of them. I like to talk with them because they all have seen various teams recently. He was telling me that Houston is really starting to heat it up. That they are playing like they thought they were going to play when the season started. He said everything has come together for them. Now, obviously, that was before 12 runs, and you see scouts in attendance.
Well, you and I talked to A.J. Hinch when the Astros were here, and he was really high on his club. I know sometimes managers are when their team's struggling and they feel like they could be better. He was genuinely of the feeling that they were going to get better. And you look at what he said after this streak. He said, look, I think we're even better than we're playing right now. I think there's more to us.
And as you can see, they come in 10 games back of Texas, but Texas has lost 60% of their starting rotation. So with Colby Lewis and Holland and Darvish all disabled, there's a chance.
Shot to right, Eaton for the second out of this fourth inning. They just got to beat Texas at some point. Well, that's been the big issue.
That's one of the things they can't do. And also, their number one, the guy that won the Cy Young Award, Dallas Keuchel, just cannot find the cutter this year. That cutter that was so good to go with his sinker, he can't find it, and that's one of the reasons why he's having just a miserable year to this point. But you have to figure, a guy that dominated so much last year would eventually figure it out. But we'll see.
The Sox will see the Astros once again on that very brief 3-game road trip coming up after this homestand, then back home for the Yankees and Braves before the All-Star break. Have you voted recently for the All-Stars, the hashtag ASG worthy?
Well, you can vote up to 35 times, as you know. Yeah. And that's how I wake up every morning, voting. I vote my face off.
So that's what happened.
That's it. Actually, I voted so much that I lost my ability to decipher colors, which is why I wore the Blue Jays color tonight, which isn't really the Blue Jays color, even though you were getting on me about this.
Well, you're saying the blue that you're wearing isn't blue?
This is more cerulean blue. That's more Blue Jay blue.
Blue Jay blue?
Yeah, that's it. Take a look.
Yeah, I see. See, they used to wear the color you have on, though, on the sleeve. The Olerud days, they had that lighter blue as well. You're wearing a throwback polo shirt. Ball and 2 strikes on Pilar. Happy mullet night to you. Thanks.
Well, they're also selling some haircuts along with those mullet wigs at the ballpark, all going to a great cause.
Carlos Rodon with strikeout number 6. It's a 1-2-3 inning, his second, and a 1-0 Jays lead after 3.5. This is what you can win if you win Sox Math today, including a Frank Thomas Grillen book. Here's your Sox Math question. Hashtag Sox Math. First correct answer wins a prize. Use Twitter. Take the number of games the Sox won in April in Toronto. Multiply the number of wins AAA Charlotte has this season. Subtract Zach Duke's jersey number. Divide by the number of times the Sox have played extra innings this year, as they did yesterday in Boston. Seems to happen quite often while you guys are on the road.
Seemingly hundreds. And they were some long games, even when they were 9 innings.
That's Cindy Lauper.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Hi, Cindy. It's a Bengals reunion all night here at the ballpark. Alex Avila leads off in the home 4th. And sprays a pitch foul from Sanchez, 0-1.
Alex came in with that batting average of 240. He's improved on that with that base hit. Awfully hard hit. And to go with the increased offense, he's really played well behind the plate. Digging pitches out of the dirt. So things coming together for Alex Avila.
Halfway to 100 for Sanchez. And at 95, he earned strike 2. Right-hander Aaron Sanchez. Goes high with a fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
The Blue Jays laid off Roberto Osuna for about a week. Not because he was doing anything poorly, because he's doing it real well. He's their closer, but he's very young, and they just wanted to give him a break. He's a big young man at 6'2", 230. And if we see a lot of him in this series, that's not a good thing. He's got 14 saves, a 1.95 ERA. He's been in 32 games, so he's overwhelming. And the only way we see him is they have the lead late.
It's the opposite of a furlough. You don't work and you still get paid.
Well, at his age, they want to make sure they don't burn him out because they feel there's consequential games in August and September. And I heard from a lot of very good managers that tell me the best pitching staff doesn't always win. It's the healthiest pitching staff, and the art of managing is knowing how to keep everybody healthy in that pen, giving guys just the right amount of innings and the right amount of days off. So that when it comes to those consequential games in August and September, they're ready.
3-2 on Alex, who's seen a full count both times up so far tonight. It's tougher to do when your bullpen stays on the injured list. When there's a lot of DL time, you got to piece it together and see what stays.
Because you're bringing up guys into roles that they were never intended to fill.
That's inside, ball 4. First walk tonight for Sanchez, a leadoff walk in the 4th. Former Blue Jay Brett Lawrie, the batter. One on, nobody out for Lawrie. Canadian born, who is 1 for 1 tonight with a single to left. And he takes a called strike that Martin had to drag up. Down 1 ball and 1 strike on Lawrie, with the Jays leading thanks to an RBI single from Kevin Pillar in the 2nd. Through the right side for Lawrie, so he's gone to left and right with his 2 base hits tonight. And again, this portion of the order has first and second, nobody out.
I'm not sure if this has a deja vu feeling for you because you weren't watching each and every pitch, but first and second, nobody out with J.B. Shuck coming to bat. The exact occurrence that happened in the 2nd inning. And it happened with the bases loaded and nobody out in Boston twice in 3 innings with J.B. Shuck. Came to bat, then Anderson and Eaton, and unfortunately the Sox could not score in any of those.
8th inning and 10th inning in that game yesterday. Eventually a Red Sox 8-7 winner. Shuck takes ball number 1. Xander Bogaerts, by the way, with his series against the Sox, has now surpassed Daniel Murphy, and now there's a fan on the field.
I have a feeling that he's going to lose this one.
You are correct. Well, it counts 1-0 on Shuck. Let's remind you, Sox fans who remain in the seats, join us as the White Sox take on the Toronto Blue Jays Saturday, June 25th at 1:10. First 20,000 fans receive a White Sox beach towel presented by Shark Week starting June 26th on Discovery. Purchase your tickets today by visiting WhiteSox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME. You know, one of the times you'd like to have Shark Week is when there's a fan on the field.
Be a nice snack.
Huh. We're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, he's being escorted off, and I'm sure that there will probably be a mullet or 2 in his future.
Want to know on Shuck. Sanchez. This is outside. 2 balls, no strikes. Starting to say that Xander Bogaerts is now the leading hitter in Major League Baseball. He's passed Daniel Murphy Up to 351 for Bogaerts.
Oh, he is some hitter.
That one spiked 3-0 on Shuck.
And at 23, Xander Bogaerts is only going to get better. So you get a guy that's as smart as he is, and he is very smart, and has the defensive abilities he has. Factor in a good hitter who keeps on getting better. He hit 320 last year, serving notice that he's for real.
And he's going to see pitches. He's surrounded by talented hitters. 3-0. Call the strike in the neighborhood. 3-1.
Got a little piece of the inside corner. This a huge at bat ahead of the right-handed Garcia, Saladino, and Anderson.
That had even more of the plate. 3-2.
One of the things that Laurie has to be aware of is that Russell Martin likes to drop to one knee behind the left-handers and throw to first base. So a secondary lead, you got to be careful of Encarnacion coming in behind you.
On the ground to get the job done of advancing the runners. Avila to third, Laurie to second, and one away.
Turned into a good at bat. He battled, got the count full, made him use some extra pitches and moved the runners up.
Leaving it for Avi Garcia, who struck out on 5 pitches in the second inning. Came in just 1 for his last 15 after really starting to turn it up earlier this month. Had a nice series against the Jays in Toronto in April. Foul ball for strike 1.
It's hard to take a young aggressive hitter and talk about selectivity, and we're not saying don't swing, but if Avi just swings at strikes, he's strong enough with an exit velocity among the top 5 in baseball and a good enough hitter to really be consequential in this lineup.
On the ground, Avila leaves third and he scores. Encarnacion barely keeps the bag. And a run in to tie the game, 2 down in the 4th.
Darrell Boston is looking in the dugout as if to say, why don't you take a look at that and see if his foot indeed was on the bag. So if it is, it'll be RBI number 25, as it will be one way or the other, as he throws it wide of the bag. And yeah, it's close. I mean, it's really close.
I think he had it briefly. That's a pretty good play, Steve.
Yeah, it is. Encarnacion did a good job.
Sox are left with Laurie at second, 2 out for Saladino, who bounced out to first in the second.
Leadoff walk. Game back to haunt Sanchez.
A wayward curveball, 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, that's the Blue Jays game. They've walked a lot this year. Very patient team, as we talked about. But the Sox cash in on their first walk of the night. Smoked foul by Saladino. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, Sanchez is a strikeout pitcher, at least 6 strikeouts in each of his last 7 starts. Max Scherzer, the longest active streak, that's 11. But being a strikeout pitcher, what you love to see in a position where contact is called for, you saw some contact from Shuck and then some contact from Garcia. So he was unable to strike out either of those 2 hitters and led to the run.
Up to 70 pitches now. Sanchez. Ground ball to short. Tulowitzki to the forehand side. to close out the 4th inning. But the Sox get a run on the RBI ground out from Avi Garcia. We're tied after 4. Viewers watching on Sony PlayStation View. Steve, how often have you watched a baseball game on your home game console?
Too many times to even mention.
So we should move on.
As soon as I get a home game console.
Not a home game console, not somebody to try your cases against the Mario Brothers. Devin Travis to lead off the 5th inning. Steve's too busy tweeting at somebody with his home game console. You've been very active on Twitter. I like it.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Calling a strike.
I went a little in front of the plate, and Alex was able to get out of the way without taking even more of a beating than he normally takes.
We had a lot of positive reaction, by the way. I was away from the TV, but a lot of positive reaction for your interview with David Kaplan. It was a great show.
Amazingly enough, I still haven't seen it.
Really?
Nope.
We need to get you a beta tape of that to play in your
8-track. I can get an 8-track of that.
An 8-track with video?
Maybe I'll talk to David about that.
1-2. It was outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Travis.
Travis originally property of the Detroit Tigers. He was traded to Toronto, and Anthony Gose went to Detroit. Now Gose went to the minor leagues.
Ripped to left by Travis. That was a leadoff single. The former 13th round pick of those Tigers. Here's your Sox math answer for today. Number of games the Sox won in April in Toronto is 3. Number of wins for AAA Charlotte right now is 35. So 3 times 35 is 105. Zach Duke's number is 33. Divide by 8 extra inning games. The answer is 9 for the Sox guy, who is a fan, you would imagine, of the team with the logo on the screen. The Sox guy is the winner of the Sox math. Congratulations. Your prize will be sent to you once you decide what you'd like, and we decide whether or not we want to send you what you'd like.
We still have this White Sox cap wonderfully adorned with an opener of sorts, I believe.
Yeah, the bottle opener.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
A can opener? Letter opener?
I'm not sure you use can openers anymore unless you're eating tuna.
Especially with the bill of your hat. Mom, the creamed corn is stuck.
There you
Let's
see.
use the hat.
It's a handsome White Sox cap.
We also have the shirt signed by the social media team here with the White Sox, who you can find on the Snapchat and the Twitter and the Instagram and the Pinterest.
That one's hung around for a bit.
Ball and a strike on Lake, and Avila slides over in front of it. 2 balls and a strike on Junior Lake.
I believe, in fact, that is about to challenge the long-standing record of Connor McKnight's Sunflower Seeds,
which is a great fantasy team name if you'd like to use it. If you're playing fantasy football, something like that. Connor McKnight's Sunflower Seeds. 2 balls and a strike on Lake. Time called.
a little too long, and Lake asked Gabe Morales for timeout, and then it was acknowledged.
Two balls, 1 strike on Lake. With Travis at first. And a throw over there by Carlos. What do you think of Carlos' stuff so far tonight?
I think he's improved for the most part, throwing first pitch strikes. Stuff has been pretty good. He only has the 1 walk. That part of it is good.
At this time through the order, 6 of 9 have seen first pitch strikes. 51% starting play
He
today.
came in, yeah, a little over 51%, which was down at the bottom. That guarantees you to not have a winning record, but his stuff is so good that even with that, he's still throwing a whole lot of good games.
And now Alex out to talk to Carlos Rodon. 3-1. Sox have Toronto in here for 3, then an off day on Monday, followed by 3 against the Minnesota Twins before a trip to Houston, and then back home for the Yankees and the Braves before the All-Star break. There's a line for Rodon. That's the 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Chase ball for Lake, makes it 3-2.
Well, Junior Lake is shaking his head because he realized he expanded that zone. Should be standing on first with Travis standing at second. Instead, there's still a chance to strike him out. Ezekiel Carrera waiting patiently in the on-deck circle.
Travis at first, 3-2. Called strike 3.
Swung at a bad one and took a perfect pitch. Take a look where this one shows up on our Toyota pitch tracks. It's the 6 that pops up right in the zone.
What is he looking for, you think?
A ball. That happened to be a strike.
Oh, a Wayne's World hat. How about that? You don't see those every day.
It actually comes with hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Garth behind him. Strike 1 to Carrera. Aurora, Illinois' finest. Wayne Campbell and maybe Garth Algar.
Garth has led a couple of hard years.
Let himself go a little bit.
That one's sweeping, yeah, well wide of the plate, and a nice job by Alex once again. Moving to his left, able to make sure this one doesn't go to the screen.
To Ezekiel Carrera, no relation to Tia Carrere, who starred in the 2 Wayne's Worlds.
And some others. He was a big star.
He was.
Yes, he did.
Indeed.
Lance Barksdale saying yes, he went around too far.
thought maybe Morales would call that one himself. Ball and 2 strikes. And bounded foul toward the Blue Jay dugout. Mentioned Cabrera hitting .441 against left-handers coming in. Now 15 out of 36 with the 2 outs tonight. He has shown some power recently with 2 home runs in the last week for the Jays. He has 3 overall for the year.
Because of those hard sliders, occasionally Carlos will still have some blister problems. Hopefully it's not going to affect him here tonight. I would think that's one of the things he's concerned about. We saw him looking at his hand, and a lot of times when a guy throws a slider, depending on which finger he throws it off of, you can throw it off of each, your index finger or your middle finger. That's going to pick up a blister.
But why specifically that pitch above all others?
We're going to explain to you exactly why. We're going to use a carefully illustrated baseball that has sat on the shelf since the French Revolution.
They did some great things outside 3 and 2. Show us.
Here's one of the things. You hold a slider normally like this, where you're, in this case, let's call it the middle finger, because that's what he's having some issues with, is on the seam. And when you throw it, it pulls right off that middle finger, which case right here, either a blood blister under the nail or right beside that is going to start blistering up, and it's the contact with the seam and the velocity with which you release it. That's why you have some problems with it.
In the air for Anderson, who chases down the pop-up, and Cabrera retired. Tremendous explanation. Thank you for that.
Well, it depends, and different pitchers throw it. There's some pitchers who throw the slider off the index finger, and again, you're still equally susceptible. It just depends on where the pressure is. And pitchers who are really good and really aware and spend a lot of time working at the bullpen can change pressure on either of their fingers and get the ball to do different things. Greg Maddux, who won 355 games, was a master at changing finger pressures and getting the ball to do exactly what he wanted to do, but couldn't do that without a lot of work in the bullpen trying it.
How much of it is just trial and error?
Well, that's usually what a pitcher should do when he has a side session. All your starting pitchers have one side session between starts. Some guys will take 2, but not many in this day and age. But on the side session, you try to do something to learn between starts other than just loosening up your arm.
Two balls, no strikes on Donaldson.
He originally was a catcher, originally drafted by the Chicago Cubs, who traded him to Oakland, where he was still a catcher, before they had all kinds of problems at third base, and someone said, let's try Josh Donaldson. That worked out real well for him.
Again, I mean, you're talking about it with pitches, but also with where guys play, need-based. Again, trial and error comes into play, and just that creative thinking sometimes leads to a bonanza.
Well, at the time, had Oakland had anybody that could play third, they wouldn't have moved Donaldson there. They didn't, and I talked to Bob Melvin about it, and he told me, he thought, well, he's a good athlete, why not use him? And they asked him, and he said, sure, I'll give it a chance. I mean, if it means I'm going to play.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, I don't want to be in the lineup.
I'll give it a shot. At first, it was a little tough for him. Then he became one of the better third basemen around. But as they say, the bat plays. If you can swing it, they'll find a place for it.
2-2. Travis at first with a leadoff single. One line foul by Donaldson. 158 games last year, 41 homers, 41 doubles. An on-base plus slugging at .939. I mean, those are career-type numbers for the MVP from last year in the American League.
Sounded like he cracked his bat. Probably because he did. And there's a few folks scattered in the Sox dugout. Greg Sparks. That was a stereo, Greg Sparks. He'll be happy about that.
Sparks fly. Look at the determination in his eyes as he comes up for air. First he has the phone problem last homestand, and now he's got bats.
They're shooting at him.
That's low. 3 balls, 2 strikes on Donaldson. I mean, he was here for Disco Demolition night. He's been through some of the White Sox stuff.
That was memorable.
Encarnacion to follow. Carlos hoping that is in the 6th as Donaldson waits for time.
That one rifled into the seats. That low slider, Donaldson went down to get it. Someone got that one.
Carlos taking a look over his shoulder. So 3 balls, 2 strikes on Donaldson after the hard hit foul ball. Travis at first, 2 down. Series opener with Toronto. 3-2. Outside, ball 4, second walk for the Blue Jays tonight gives Encarnacion a crack in the 5th.
Glenn Cooper's going to come out, and I think he's going to ask him about that finger and how it is. "89 pitches to this point," so he's used a whole lot of pitches to get through 4 2/3.
When that blister starts to form, what does that end up doing? What kind of signs can you see from a pitcher?
Well, first thing you feel is something that's not quite right. And then depending on the development of the blister itself, you're either going to get no feeling for the baseball or you're going to get some soreness. And sometimes if it does develop into a blood blister under the nail, while you're pitching, it's going to pop. That's not good. And it's also not good when you can't feel that feeling that you have to have in the tips of your fingers to be able to pitch. But right now, all he has to concentrate on is, man, he's fanned twice, but who's awfully dangerous standing in the batter's box.
Encarnacion struck out swinging in the 1st, looking in the 3rd. And ball number 1 to him here in the 5th. Fourth player in Blue Jays history with 30 or more homers in 4 different seasons. Edwin Encarnacion down the line and foul, 1-1. Guy who had the longest hit streak in the majors last year, 26 games. Encarnacion, as Rodon has thrown his 30th of this inning. 1-2. On the ground, Saladino. He got him inning over. 2 on, no problem. Carlos deep sixes the Jays rally. We're tied at 1 after 4.5. Jays in a 1-1 tie here in the home fifth. He's Steve Stone. I'm Jason Benetti. Our entire crew: Mike Leary, Jim Angio, Joe Grube, Mike Mayer, everybody else, Dave Ross. A lot of horses in our truck.
Well, that one hit awfully hard, but unfortunately, no luck.
So Anderson is out on a hard line drive. And here comes Adam Eaton. Eaton the foul ball after the line out to third for Anderson and 1 away. Longest start this year for Sanchez came on June the 7th. That was at Detroit. An 8-inning, no decision. We're gonna have to really get pretty economical to get there.
Yeah, pitch number 75 on the way. And Adam is taking up a whole lot of those pitches with his 2 at-bats, although he doesn't have anything to show for it. There's a young fan, awfully happy.
High fives from everybody, people he doesn't know. It's a medium 5. Upstairs 2-2 on Eaton. Tulowitzki for out number 2.
Time now for our Lowe's home field advantage statistic, and it is Melky. And his season at home, April, he was very good. May, he was still good, not as good. And in June, he's been red hot. So Melky with 2 hits tonight is our Lowe's home field advantage.
That is a Dave Ross special right there. The Lowe's home field advantage. 2 down.
And as you know, I love my audio tweets.
You do.
Some of my best tweets are audio tweets.
Yeah, I would agree. Yep.
I'm going to mention Ethan Goldberg. He wanted to know who I thought was the most valuable player this year.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say the man you're looking at, because he's been the most consistent of all Sox hitters.
For the Sox, you're saying?
Yeah, the most valuable player for the Sox.
Who would be your MVP overall in Major League Baseball? While we're at it, you think it over. We got time.
Melky spins out of there and wisely spins back toward the catcher. Spin the other way, you probably get hit by this one.
A little bit of a late reaction.
Yeah, he wasn't going to get hit by that as it was in the Russell Martin's glove.
Well, he had the one in Boston, right? When he fell out of the batter's box, essentially. That was outstanding.
Yeah, that was one of the great swings. And just falling backwards.
Fouled off. He is 2 for 2 tonight. A single to left, a double to right for Melky Cabrera.
I'm going to hold that question in abeyance until I can look through the multitude of papers I have here. Seemingly they were left over from last homestand, and I will find out who the MVP is.
Melky deep to right field. Lake is back at the wall. It's gone. Sox lead for the first time. It's 2-1. Off a 4-hit night in Boston, Melky's 3 for 3 this evening.
A forward home run replay. It's a curveball. That's one thing that Sanchez has had some problems with tonight. Adam Eaton almost took one out of the ballpark in the 3rd. And this one does go out of the park. And that is a clinic for all you young outfielders, how not to play a ball at the wall. Junior Lake got trapped too close to the wall. And when he went up to make the catch, he didn't have a glove with him because it had fallen off. So take a look. He wouldn't have caught this anyway. But he goes back to the wall. This part of it's fine. He thinks he's going to time his leap, but he hits the fence. No glove and no chance.
That is where I got it rings hollow. With that home run, another generous donation from the Alex Nellius family in loving memory of Ursula. And Rick Renteria with a greeting for Melky Cabrera in that dugout. 2-1 on Frazier.
So there you go, Ethan Goldberg. There is the Sox most valuable player, homering just for you, and a little for him too.
An audio tweet with a crack of the bat. 2-1. 2-2. Frazier up the middle into center for a base hit, and the rally continues in the 5th.
He tried to dot the corner, and in fact was the same exact pitch as the pitch before. A fastball away, only this one Todd Frazier takes right back through the middle, keeps the inning alive.
Well, Todd could use 1 or 2 of those to sneak through with a batting average on balls in play of 173, which is, again, historically low, like the lowest number you can find on the Fangraphs website, dating back to 1950. Grounded foul by Avila. If you're into researching things on Fangraphs dating back to 1950, you're not going to find one lower, which is to say, at some point you would imagine the luck to turn for Frazier.
What he's got to do is keep putting the ball in play, and it will turn because he hits the ball hard enough, but he hasn't made near as much contact as he would like.
Runners off. Throw to second is late. Frazier with his 6th steal.
This time he got that running start again, and Sanchez did not see it or chose to disregard it. So he's got a good couple of steps, and Russell Martin skips it to second.
Well, he got picked off in Boston.
Yeah, he did.
On that lead, and turns it into a steal here in the 5th tonight. Ball and 2 strikes on Alex, who walked and scored last inning. Run or two at some point tonight, you would imagine, would be something that Robin Ventura would like to see, considering how taxed the bullpen was in that Boston series.
And the fact that you figure the bullpen's going to figure prominently in this series with Toronto and their offense. But so far, Carlos Rodon has thrown the ball as well as you could expect against a very, very powerful Blue Jay team. That's the before Mark Knopfler.
2-2. Line right at him. Tulowitzki spears it, and that does it. But the Sox get a run on Melky Cabrera's homer to right field. 2-1.
With White Sox checking, an official White Sox MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/Sox to learn more. Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC.
That is Club Atlas of Guadalajara, which will be playing tomorrow against Chivas at Toyota Park, out of the lovely state of Jalisco in Mexico. You know how many states are in Mexico, Steve?
Well, California used to have part of it.
But after that,
I would guess 110 states.
Just 32 states in Mexico.
I would guess less than that.
Yeah.
I'd guess 32 states.
Matemáticas de los Sox. Up and in. 2-0 on Saunders, who's 1 for 2 with a double tonight. Wow. That is something we need to get Steve Stone.
My Favorite Martian was one of my favorite shows.
You're just repeating yourself. In the air left side, Melky Cabrera runs on the real estate. 2-1 on Saunders.
We talked about Saunders being disabled. When he's healthy, he's a very good player, and he is that. But unfortunately, the last few years especially, he spent a lot of time on the shelf. Disabled in 2013, disabled again 2014, twice, disabled actually 3 times in 2014 and twice in 2015.
And hit
in 2016. That one gets him on the belt.
One on, nobody out for Russell Martin. Who is 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a tap out to third.
Time now for our Xfinity high-speed action replay, and it's Tyler Saladino at third. Russell Martin hits the daylights out of this one. Tyler stays right with it, fires across to get him by a good full step. And the first thing that will go if you're having a blister problem is your control. And I would think they're looking at it pretty carefully at this point. Yes, 98 pitches. However, Alex Avila wanted that fastball away to Saunders, and he got it way in. And hopefully he's going to be okay. There you can see it just forming on the middle finger. It's under the nail on the middle finger, and if it progresses from there, it's going to make it very difficult to get and keep the feeling that you have to throw the ball 60 feet 6 inches in exactly the spot you want to throw it. So the bullpen up and going in a hurry now, and it's Matt Albers.
Ball and a strike on Russell Martin. Saw Matt Albers yesterday here in the 6th inning for 3 batters worth. One of 7 pitchers used in that Sox loss in the finale to Boston. Jays have grounded into a bunch of double plays this season. 72 of them, the last place team in Major League Baseball, and grounded into double plays.
Well, to do that, it takes a combination of hitting the ball very hard and being surprisingly slow.
And having base runners.
And having a lot of them, yes.
Up and out, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Martin is one of those guys that will hit the ball hard, and because he has been a catcher for a long time, he does not run exceptionally well. Although only 6 double plays this year he's grounded into.
Just off the dish, 3 balls, 2 strikes. Do you send Saunders here or think about it?
I don't send him.
He holds. 4 strike 3.
See, you're liable to have your hitter taking a look at a called strike 3 and then having Saunders thrown out. And with the left-hander, it's tough to send him, especially one who hasn't shown you yet what his best move is. And this one had a good piece of the plate. In fact, it was right down the middle. And you asked before, what's he looking for? In that case, I don't know. That was a fastball. It carved out the middle of the plate.
That's a couple times tonight. We've seen strike 3 hit all of home plate. And a balk called.
I would say no hesitation. And Angel Hernandez called it. And we'll take a look. Well, your guess is as good as mine, and I think Don Cooper might have gotten tossed. It didn't appear to be a balk that I saw, but Angel Hernandez saw something else.
All over the league they do that, is a paraphrase. Don Cooper officially ejected. And Tulowitzki now would have to get creative for the double play to end the inning. Boy, that is. You thought he called that Carlos didn't stop, right?
Well, Carlos had been most of the game. He's been setting down by his belt. That time he set up on top.
Well, he did set.
But he did. It looked like a hesitation. Didn't look like a balk.
Deep to center. Shuck roves over. Saunders the tag, and he's up to third with 2 down in the 6th. Another look at it.
That could be construed as no pause, but and then Angel Hernandez tosses Don Cooper
From a long way away.
Yeah. From distance.
Two down, Kevin Pillar. Strike call. Kind of rare to see the first base umpire go ahead and take care of that. Just in the grand scope of ejections, you don't see too many of them coming from the first base umpire.
Well, I thought, I mean, Gabe Morales shared with Angel Hernandez in the balk call seemingly. And then Don, I don't know who he was talking to, but he had a pretty good point. And Pillar just aired it out. I mean, that was a swing that he was trying to hit onto the Dan Ryan, but no contact. Nice stop by Avila, especially with Saunders 90 feet away from scoring the tying run.
Ball and 2 strikes. Right side, Frazier. Save!
Now Robin's going to want to take another look at it. Todd Frazier ranges well off the bag to his right. Looks to me like he's safe at first.
Sure does.
But we'll have to see. He was there before the tag.
It's an RBI single.
It goes as a base hit.
And turns into a big balk call.
A huge balk call. Because if not for the balk call,
runs not home.
Saunders is probably at first base when that base hit occurs.
At least to this point, the run's not home. So Travis throw to first. Look out, Angel. Well, for Carlos Rodon, whatever he finishes at will be his high pitch count of the season. The prior top was 110 against the Red Sox on May the 4th. Well, at the very least, the argument Don Cooper's making of that happens a lot. What you just called a balk happens a lot.
Yep.
Seems to hold water based on the replay we saw. You can bat back and forth whether or not he stopped. Runners off and a ground ball foul.
Yeah, they'd like to see a 1 second pause. But as long as we see a pause, they allow guys to do that most of the time. And I think that was Don Cooper's argument.
For anyone in our viewing audience that has ever been given out a ticket for rolling through a stop sign, you feel the pain of Carlos Rodon right now. That's essentially what he did. Ball and 2 strikes on Travis. Pilar at first. Hammered foul right side.
He reached back, got 98. That was as fast a fastball as he's thrown tonight. So even at 113 pitches, he's still got plenty left in the tank.
Fouled off again, ramping up the pitch count.
There's the average fastball, 95. The average slider, 88. And he hasn't thrown many, but the average changeup at 84.
Looked over to first by Rodon. So Saunders hit by a pitch, reaches second on a balk. A couple of batters later, Pilar the RBI single. And this one sent through the right side. Pilar was off. He reaches third. First and third, 2 down for Lake.
We didn't see Travis when we were in Toronto, but back in the lineup, he's had a couple of hits tonight, and that's going to be it for Carlos Rodon at the 115 pitch mark. So against Junior Lake, who is due up, Matt Albers comes in the ball game, and as he comes in, we'll step out and be back after these messages.
7-10, your Chicago White Sox take on the Chicago Cubs, presented by United Airlines. United proud to fly the Chicago White Sox. Purchase tickets today or by visiting whitesox.com, calling 866-SOX-GAME. You can do that whenever you like.
Time now for the Midas Tire and Auto Service experts call to the pen, and that call is Matt Albers. He inherits run of Blue Jays base runners at first and third. On for the 34th time. ERA 5.34. And they're going to pinch hit for Junior late. Carlos Rodon threw the ball pretty well, and the best he can hope for is a no decision. But for a balk call, he probably emerges this one. Still ahead. You'd never know how the inning plays out.
Ryan Goins, the batter for Toronto. Albers misses low.
There you look at what he's done this year. It hasn't been a whole lot.
Big spot right now. 2 on, 2 out.
And uses a pinch hitter 3 times, and he is 0 for 3. Travis and Pilar on the base paths. Travis at first, Pilar at third.
Laurie is on it for the final out. The Jays tie the game, but don't get any more. 2-2 after 5.5.
Game 2 of a series right here on CSN as our Sox square off with the Jays. It all begins at 12:30 with White Sox pregame live, presented by the Koalas family of dealerships on CSN Chicago.
R.A. Dickey versus Miguel Gonzalez.
Miguel last time out against Boston threw a wonderful ball game.
You know, he threw his first game as a White Sox pitcher in Toronto. As Cabrera comes from left to right and Ryan Goins stays in the game, he's going to play left field for the fighting Gibbenses. Laurie takes a ball, but to finish that point, Gonzalez threw his first game as a White Sox player against Toronto and eventually pitched the Sox deep enough into the game so they could come back and win. Toronto got 5 from him in the first 3 innings of that night, and then zeros after that left the Sox in a position for the comeback that eventually made it a 7-5 win.
He's gotten better and better, and culminating with last time out where he could hardly pitch any better.
Laurie skewers it up the middle. He is 3 for 3 with a single to left, center, and right.
right back through the middle, right back through the legs of Sanchez, and then Brett having a good night. And I think that if Darryl Boston's chest holds up, he's going to be in good shape also. If this guy led the league in hitting, Darryl Boston would have to go to the hospital. Because he whacks him on the chest every time he gets to first base.
It would be a major rib cage issue. Shuck the batter. Ball number 1.
Donaldson very close at third.
That's where they played J.B. Shuck all night long. He's come up with runners on all 3 times now. Fred Lowry with the old Greg Louganis routine into first. That was a long dive back.
Quick move by Aaron Sanchez. He came close as Brett was leaning toward second. Fortunately, the hand in under the tag. Long look down at Joe McEwing at third base.
Lowry's off. Ground ball to first. And Encarnacion. Lowry advances. Essentially a swinging bunt for Shuck. And 1 away.
Both bullpens up and going. It's Jones in the Sox pen and Jesse Chavez in the Blue Jays pen. So in the 4th inning, this ground ball to shortstop, scored the first Sox run. And with that first White Sox run, Quick Landing has donated $100 to the Pat Tillman Foundation, supporting military veterans and their families.
And Avi Garcia was the man that made it happen with that RBI ground out to score Alex Avila. Just short of 100. Sanchez as that ball fade inside. Ball number 1. Popped him up. 2 down.
Told you Nate Jones was throwing. There is definitive proof.
Just in case people didn't believe us.
There he is.
Yeah.
Nate Jones, number 65.
Never hot dogging it. The bullpen.
Those Vienna beef hot dogs are awfully good, especially with mustard on them.
Muy bien. You're not going back there, are you?
No, not yet.
Lowry at second, 2 down. Sanchez trying to wriggle free. There's a hook for ball number 1. Just in case you ever wondered what Tyler Saladino would look like as part of, I don't know, Journey's backup band.
But that also is an early picture because the mustache has not yet a chance to hang down from either side of his mouth.
Two balls, no strikes on Saladino.
There it is.
Yeah, you combine that with the mullet.
That's a good look.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a reverse Raleigh fingers.
2-0. The strike wasn't the cleanest catch by Russell Martin.
And
pitch tracks.
Yeah, pitch tracks. It's a tough strike to take.
Disagreeable sort in that case. Toyota pitch tracks. Lowry at second, 2-1 for Saladino. And foul.
Indians came in winners of 6 in a row, and they have defeated the Tigers. So the Indians run their winning streak behind Danny Salazar to 7 games in a row.
Hot Ball Club leading the Central right now. 2-2. Saladino on the ground. Travis in position. And the inning comes to an end. Lowry's leadoff single does no damage to Sanchez. After 6, even at 2. You ever wonder what your pets think about and talk about and what they do when you're not home?
All the time.
This summer, Steve, the secret is out. From the humans behind Despicable Me comes The Secret Life of Pets in theaters on July 8th. You and your minions will go see that. I'm sure you're a big pet guy.
I would love to see that.
I'll take you. We'll go after a game.
Okay.
Being one of your dependents.
Let's see it twice.
Here's Nate Jones.
And Nate Jones comes into this on for the 35th time. 2-2 record, ERA just under 3. He's got to deal with the top of the order, and Cabrera has yet to attempt a bunt. Something he usually does at least once a game, but Nate's not easy to bunt out.
Hard thrower. There's the bunt shown. And strike 1. Because of the velocity, or
the ball's pretty lively, number 1. Number 2, that slider at 90, 89, 90 miles an hour is almost impossible to bunt. So 99. Right now at 0-2, he's not thinking about much, but you can't retreat too far at third base, because if he squibs one off the end of the bat, you've got to be able to throw him out.
David Ortiz style. Right?
Occasionally, I mean, to take enough swings, David tried to bunt his way out.
Yes, yeah.
And normally, with nobody home on the left side, it would have been good.
0-2. And dirt, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
So you asked me about the MVPs, and in the American League, it seemed like right now it would be a 3-way battle. Although I think Betts would be kind of dropping out, and Ortiz and Bogaerts would be right there at 1-2, 2-1 either way. When you look at the offensive numbers of those guys, you'd have to say one of them would get the MVP.
Cabrera tomahawks this pitch to Lowry. 1 down. So you're saying the top 3 MVP candidates in the American League all play for the Red Sox?
No, I'm saying Betts has dropped out at this point. Although you look at some of the numbers and he's right there.
I see.
But those other 2 guys, Bogaerts and Ortiz, Big Papi, a lot of sentiment to Big Papi, especially if he continues with this kind of year.
I mean, he's slugging .697.
Yeah, it's been remarkable. Bogaerts leading the league in hitting, Ortiz 3rd.
And the Sox took 3 of 4 from the Red Sox.
They did, and could have easily have taken the 4th, but you can say that about just about every game, except that 13-2 affair in Cleveland.
Mullet, Harold Baines tonight at 11.
Not a good look for Harold. Not one I'm thinking he's going to sport anytime soon.
Yeah, it's, you know how tough it would be to get Harold Baines to actually wear that wig. You know what kind of look you'd get? Harold, we just want to put this on Snapchat. 1-2 for Donaldson. Usually a very patient guy. Donaldson 5th in baseball. 48 walks. I mentioned the Sox will play Minnesota for the remainder of this homestand. That last game against Toronto will have Marcus Stroman and Chris Sale. The K-zone will be activated on Sunday. Slider low. I think the K-zone will be as raucous as the other night when we were out there. It's the first chance for them since we were out there.
I would think so.
You do.
It's a pretty lively place.
2-2. Buried, 3 balls, 2 strikes. Good news for the Sox, by the way, official now. Sox have signed their first-round pick, Zach Collins. And the plan is to have him here at the ballpark tomorrow to chat with us, among other things. He tweeted earlier today, Hurricanes baseball did, that he was in town. So we were hoping to see Zach Collins tomorrow. Anderson. And Frazier the pick for out number 2.
Tim comes across and picks it on a short hop. And a good play on the other end is Todd Frazier. Backhands on the short hop also.
By the way, on the subject of draft pick, Zach Birdie, the second pick the Sox had in the first round, has been moved up to Class A Advanced Winston-Salem.
Well, they like the fact that last time out his fastball was timed at 100 miles an hour. I talked with Rick Hahn about it, and I talked to him about the philosophy, because going and seeing the Arizona Fall League every year, as I have for many years now, I've noticed that the good hitters are still there, but now you're not getting your best cream of the crop of your pitchers. And Rick explained that more times than not, you want to limit a guy's innings. So what you're going to get in the Arizona Fall League is a lot of pitchers who haven't yet come close to the amount of innings that they might have wanted. That's one. Two, a guy coming back from an injury. That's who goes there. They protect their real good pitchers.
Up the ladder, strike 3. Encarnacion sent away on 3 pitches. Easy street for Nate on the way to stretch time. It's Thursday, June 30th at 1:10 p.m. First 10,000 fans get a free Adam Eaton t-shirt presented by the Village of Bedford Park. Bring your business home to Bedford Park and win big. Purchase your tickets today by visiting WhiteSox.com or calling 866-SOX game. Toronto into the bullpen, Stoney.
Jesse Chavez coming in the ball game, and he's had a pretty solid year. He's 0-1 ERA, 3.25 on for the 28th time. There was a time with Oakland where he was a starting pitcher and actually did very well. What they were concerned of is because he's not an overwhelmingly large guy, they were concerned about durability. So he has moved to the bullpen, found a good spot in it here with Toronto. And so a no decision for Aaron Sanchez, who went 6, gave up a couple of runs on 8 hits with a walk and 4 strikeouts.
Chavez, who seems to be wearing pants that are 2 sizes too large, has given up earned runs in each of his last 2 outings.
You need room for expansion.
Are you Gary Bettman now?
Well, they're talking some about Montreal. Mexico City's been mentioned.
Commissioner said those 2.
A few other places. And the pants of Jesse Chavez.
Still 2 strikes on Anderson, who is 0 for 3, but does have 6 multi-hit games in his first 13 as a Major League Baseball player. Late decision and a foul ball.
Was able to stay alive almost with one hand as one came off the bat, and he did stay alive. Tim starts to lay off high fastballs. I mean, up and out of the zone, he's going to be in much better shape.
That was a breaking ball that stayed in the zone and gets by Donaldson down the line. Here's Anderson flashing his speed into second. And a major miscue for the Blue Jays as it gets away again. And finally they pocket the ball on the infield. 2 bases for Anderson.
Looked like a play that Donaldson has made time and time again, but this time as he went to backhand it toward the line, it flattened out, went under the glove. He just flat out misses it. I would say it's 2 bases, but we'll have to see what Bob Rosenberg says. Whatever he says, that's a go-ahead run out at second base with nobody out. And it is a 2-base hit.
5th double for Anderson. And the Sox now with Eaton coming up. And Melky to follow. And a wheel to second from Chavez. Eaton swinging away, takes a ball. Donaldson now 1 off the team lead for errors with 7 that Tulowitzki holds. That one scored a double. However, Donaldson would like to keep it in front of him. Eaton in the air, left center field. Goins is there. Anderson takes off, and he is saved at third.
Goins an infielder by trade. He came in the game as a pinch hitter, moved to left field, and even though the throw is accurate, he does not have an overwhelming arm. Throw got there on a hop, and it was right on the money, but Anderson with great speed tags up as the ball was just far enough. He's in under the tag, so the go-ahead run 90 feet away. And a meeting at the mound. So we've got Pete Walker, who comes out. He wants a word with Jesse Chavez on what they want to do with Melky. Melky has been hitting and squaring up everything in sight tonight.
3 for 3, single to left, double to right, homer to right. Speaking of that home run, it came in the 5th against the starter Sanchez.
Sanchez had one problem tonight, and that was with the curveball that didn't break quite as sharply as he would like a number of times, and Melky took advantage of it. Infield in.
Ball 1.
I would be shocked if they pitched to him here. Is the bullpen up and going? Joe Biagini.
Yeah, pretty clear pitch around.
Well,
2 pitches deep.
The problem when you do that is that you run the risk of him throwing the ball away. That time Russell Martin went out, made a nice stop, but in an effort to make sure that nothing is close to Melky, he almost threw a wild pitch.
2-0. There for a strike.
Last cycle back in 2000.
On the ground, and Encarnacion reels it in. What a play over at first. Anderson held up at third. 2 down.
That's the inexperience of a young player. Encarnacion with a great catch. He's on the ground. And Anderson, for some reason, going back to the bag. So at that point, when you head back to the bag, you can't take off. And that was just the inexperience of a guy just coming to the major leagues.
Leaving it up to Frazier with 2 out and strike 1. When should he have gone?
As soon as the ball hits the ground, because you know through a drawn-in infield, if you look at the hop, it's going to be a real tough play. And then you see Encarnacion, he's going to dive for it. The end result of that dive, once it's hit the ground, is he's going to wind up on the ground. Not much doubt about that. And as he does, if you're coming down the line with the pitch, then you're going to score. And that's really the key, is coming down the line with the pitch.
Ripped to left, Frazier scores Anderson anyway. 3-2, Sox in the 7th.
So as a first baseman, Todd Frazier has a couple of hits. He's got his 49th run driven in, and it's a go-ahead run. Todd also has a stolen base to go with it as he gets a fastball right down the middle. And that puts the Sox up 3-2.
First multi-hit game of the month for Frazier. The Sox lead it, and Avila will bat. This all started with the ball that Anderson hit down the line. Looked like it could have possibly been Donaldson's 6th error. Instead, it's a double for Anderson. Regardless, Tim put it in play, got on base, eaten the fly ball. Then Frazier, 2 batters later, the RBI single.
There are a lot of lessons that the major leagues teach you, and one of them is the art of base running. When you come to the major leagues, base running has a certain amount of instinct with it, but it also has a certain amount of, have you seen this play before? And in the case of Tim Anderson, who's got great skills, he will eventually be a much more aggressive base runner than he is now. And he'll learn by that, and that's what you have to do.
Ball and a strike on Avila with Laurie next, who's 3 for 3 tonight. Sox trying to win the opener, get back to 500, keep up with Cleveland, which won tonight in Detroit in that first game of the series. A little bit low. 2 balls and a strike.
Just missed with a change.
Fouled off. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and Alex wants that one back.
Michael Inoa and Zach Duke. Zach is ready to go. Inoa has just started to loosen up. With left-handed Saunders and then right-handed Martin and Tulowitzki. Anybody gets on, more right-handers do up.
2-2. Well, that situation leaves Robin Ventura with some choices. Do you have the lefty Duke come in to face the lefty, and then Inoa for the battery of right-handers? What do you do? We'll see.
Well,
without his pitching coach.
He probably would like to limit the amount of hitters if he uses Zach Duke, who has used a whole lot in Boston.
Frazier's off. Strike 3 to Alex Avila. Sox get a run, though. They retake the lead. Frazier plates Anderson. 3-2 after 7 tonight.
You can join CSN's Sierra Santos for a taping of Beer Money Sunday at 11 outside of U.S. Cellular Field in Lot C. Test your sports trivia skills for a chance to take home cash. That's Kevin Cash. Follow at CSN Beer Money on Twitter for an exact location and more information. Can't take him home. He's managing in Tampa.
Yeah, he's got things to do. So does Zach Duke.
And he comes into ball game on for the 39th time. He's 2-0, 2.92 ERA. He is the man. Pitched out the bases loaded, nobody out situation in Boston, keeping the game alive for the Sox to eventually win it. He's on to face Michael Saunders, and then a bevy of right-handers after Saunders.
1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on for Duke since June 18th as he feeds in strike 1 to Saunders. Saunders has been equal opportunity against lefties and righties this year. 300 against left-handers, 305 against right-handers. With his slugging percentage 5th in Major League Baseball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Fouled off. 1-2 on Saunders, who's been also remarkably consistent all year long. 311 in April, 276 in May, 338 in June.
Well, as far as Blue Jays are concerned, he's heating up at the right time because they are back in the middle of the race. They came in 2.5 games back in a wide open American League East.
Yankees are even lingering 6 games behind.
A lot of unhappy teams. A lot of teams would love to see them fall out.
They covet,
they covet one of those 2 left-handers. Andrew Miller signed for a while. Aroldis Chapman's going to be a free agent, and either one would bring a king's ransom to a team who believes they're 1 reliever away.
Check swing, and he did go. Strike 3. Duke uses the breaking ball deftly for out number 1 in the 8th.
Good sweeping breaking ball away, and Saunders cannot check his swing. The appeal to Lance Barksdale, and yes indeed he did. So Zach Duke, who gets out right-handers this year better than lefties, will face at least one, possibly all the right-handers.
Ball 1 to Russell Martin, who's nothing for 3 and has yet to serve a ball to the outfield tonight. That's off the plate as well. 3 balls, no strikes for Martin. Career against Zach Duke. Russell Martin has very strong numbers. Former Dodger, former Pirate. 3-0 is there. 3-1. Tulowitzki is next. 3-1 on Martin. Outside. All away. 1 on, 1 out. Join us for a children-only pregame autograph session. Fans that purchase this special ticket pack can participate in an exclusive autograph session with select members of the White Sox prior to select games. To purchase these special ticket packs, please visit whitesox.com/autographs. Mr. Sale and a happy youngster. Chris Sale will pitch in 2 days, weather permitting, at U.S. Cellular Field.
Would the weather better permit, this team is not coming back again. And one would certainly hope that they are not forced to anytime soon. One on, 1 out, Tulowitzki.
His numbers against Duke also stand out. 6 for 16, 375 clip, and now a meeting at the mound. Todd Frazier, the first baseman tonight, with Abreu getting a day off, having a conversation with Duke. How do you pitch Tulowitzki here?
Got to throw him a strike. You got to keep it on the outer third and hope he rolls over and hits that ground ball to the left side.
In the air, foul right side into a sweet 2-1.
Expanded his strike zone a bit, but the idea was correct. He did keep it away.
Right side again and foul from Tulowitzki. 2 balls, 2 strikes. to the 31-year-old shortstop who's only hit left-handers to the tune of 200 this year entering this game, and he's 0 for 2 tonight against Carlos Rodon.
No stranger to the strikeout. He's fanned 51 times in 183 at bats. That's a lot of strikeouts.
Duke could certainly take one right here. Martin at first, and time call. Two and two. Shaq swing, no, says Angel Hernandez at first. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
We'll take a look from the side. Tulowitzki wants to go after it, but he didn't swing. That's a good call by Angel Hernandez.
What do you got? 3 and 2.
And from another fastball away. And it was the fastball that Alex wanted. Now the question is, what will Zach want? Because you have to throw the ball with conviction. And this looks like a breaky.
It is, and he gets strike 3. Second punch out for Duke here in the 8th.
Great example of a catcher thinking one way, but deferring to the pitcher because the pitcher's got to throw it with conviction, and Zach wanted to throw a slider. So, not that a fastball would be the wrong pitch. It's just that you have a veteran pitcher who knows what he wants to do, and a catcher who gives him the ability to do that. That's good communication, and Zach Duke got the job done.
Left-hander who's been pitching in the majors since 2005. 33-year-old Duke to Pilar with a hook for a strike.
That time he kept it a little more over the top, just to drop in the first pitch strike.
Pilar's driven in both Toronto runs tonight. Last one on an infield single. And this down low, 1-1. Two out, 1 ball, 1 strike. Second base, Laurie. Anderson. That'll do it for the Jays here in the 8th. 1 out walk. Nothing more at 3-2 after 7.5 in the opener. 3-2 your score. Sox with the lead. Laurie, Shuck, and Garcia to face a new pitcher from Indianapolis.
Drew Storen comes in the game.
And strike one to Laurie.
At one point he was a closer with the Washington Nationals. They picked him in the first round. On for the 31st time. ERA up there. Gone are the closer days, and left-handers have really torched him.
He is the son of longtime Indianapolis sports talk radio host Mark Patrick. Drew Storen.
10th pick in the country in a year where Washington had Steven Strasburg at 1 and picked Storen with the 10th pick.
Fouled away by Laurie. 1 ball and 2 strikes. A couple years ago he had that really rough game against St. Louis in the playoffs, and that's the thing that seemed to turn his career in Washington and shuttled out in favor of Papelbon.
That's happened a few times. Neftali Feliz comes to mind with Texas. Same situation.
Popped up from Laurie. Encarnacion for out number 1. Hey, Sox fans, you win with Papa John's Pizza all season long. The day after the Sox win, you get 50% off your entire online order of regular menu priced items only at papajohns.com when you use promo code SOXWIN at participating Papa John's locations. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's. J.B. Shuck with 1 down. Swings through the off-speed pitch. First time Shuck's come up with the bases cleared tonight. And he hits this one high in the air to right field. Ezekiel Carrera squeezes out number 2. David Robertson getting loose for the Sox in that bullpen. We saw him yesterday. We saw him 2 days prior to that for an inning and a third and his 18th save. Inside ball 1 to Garcia, who's nothing for 3 but does have an RBI off a ground out in the 4th that brought Alex Avila home. Thanks to those of you just joining us on the main channel after the Cubs took care of the Marlins. There's a strike to Avi Garcia. The Sox were down 1-0 after 2 tonight. Came back with a run in the 4th on that Garcia RBI groundout. Took the lead in the 5th on a Melky Cabrera home run. The Blue Jays retaliated in the 6th with a Kevin Pillar RBI single, but the Sox retook the lead. That stands now on a Frazier RBI hit in the 7th as Garcia shanks this one into center field. First hit tonight for Avi Garcia. Sox have 11.
And an insurance run would look awfully good here. It's a fastball, was right down the middle, and Avi able to keep the inning alive.
For Tyler Saladino. Ball 1, a breaking ball that stayed up on Storen, who comes in for Jesse Chavez, who gave up the lead run on a 2-hit 7th inning. And a balk call. Tonight's second balk.
Well, if you missed it earlier and you weren't here, Carlos Rodon was also charged with a balk, and eventually it led to a run. This time Drew Storen not quite sure exactly what he did. And Russell Martin, his opinion. Let's watch Storen. He came set twice, and that actually was a balk. Unlike, he said, once you come set at the waist, you can't then come set at the letters. And that's exactly what Gabe Morales is explaining to him. I think when Pete Walker, the pitching coach, takes a look at that, he'll realize that that was indeed a balk.
There have been now 66 balks called, excluding other play tonight. 66 balks.
I would hope so, because in this game it would lengthen it out a touch.
Yeah, well, the 2 tonight count against that number. 64 coming into play tonight. So 2 here this evening. A third, we would be approaching record territory.
I remember that 54th balk, and I got to tell you,
it was,
yeah, it was a bad call.
I thought you were going to say it was egregious.
It would have.
Saladino lofts it left side and into foul territory on a play.
Just a base hit here, and the all-important insurance run will score. And it would come with the aid of a balk.
We welcome you to U.S. Cellular Chicken Coop with multiple balks tonight.
You don't see 2 balks in the same game very often.
To get our friends Elias on that, or just a guy named Elias.
Give him a call. He started in person of interest.
3-1 to Saladino. Garcia at second. Storen hits him.
Got hit by a breaking ball. It caught the lead shoulder. And he winds up aboard. And now Josh Donaldson comes out to talk with Drew Storen. This one just slipped out of his hand because Russell Martin wanted this low and away, and this one just got away from him.
2011, Drew Storen saved 43 games and a 2.75 ERA. He's up over 5 this year as Tim Anderson grounds it to third. Donaldson just had the bag. Foot just clipped the bag from Travis, and the inning is over. Sox lead by 1 after 8.
It's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Todd Frazier starting at first base tonight. Drills one into left field. Tim Anderson scores. That's the go-ahead run, and David Robertson is coming in to try to make it the winning run. David out for the 30th time. 18 for 20 in save opportunities. There you look at the numbers. Left-handers haven't done much. And he's going to start with the bottom part of the order. Travis, Goins, and to the top with Cabrera. And hopefully Donaldson to hit tomorrow.
Sox have lost their last 3 one-run games. Trying to reverse that. There were 3 of them out of the 4 losses on that road trip. Travis first with a single to left and a single to right tonight, after Duke went the 1 inning and struck out 2 and bridged the gap from the 7th to the 9th. Robertson to Travis. First pitch swinging, fly ball, lazily hit. Adam Eaton, 1 down.
Now it's time for our White Sox upcoming schedule, brought to you by Travel Wisconsin. Plan your fun today at travelwisconsin.com. And the Blue Jays here for 2 more. Then the off day, and the Twins come to town Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's it for the homestand, and that's it for Travel Wisconsin.
And that's it for Ryan Goins as well. He's going to be pinch hit for Darwin Barney. Barney, Smoke, and Tolley, the available players on the bench. It is Barney, who's a .295 hitter, coming in.
And you got to watch the bunt from Darwin Barney. He does it very well. I remember him in his days with the Cubs. A terrific defender. He was a second baseman in those days. You'd like Saladino in a little closer at third.
The only oddity here is Barney was the lone right-handed bat on the bench. Smoke is a switch hitter. Tolley is a left-hander. And it's the right-hander Barney for the matchup with Robertson. Nothing in 2 off a breaking ball high.
That curveball hung up there, and Darwin swung through it. There's James Shields coming off a pretty strong performance against the Red Sox in Boston.
0-2. Upstairs. Sox took the lead tonight on a Todd Frazier RBI single in the 7th with 2 out.
Barney 1 for 3 as a pinch hitter, and I figure they could always use Smoke for Cabrera if Barney were to get on. Just able to stay alive as he went out, and that ball's alive.
He didn't touch that ball. It's a live ball. There was no signal from the plate umpire Morales, and he is safe at first.
And Robin's going to argue this one. They're going to meet.
Morales let it play out. We'll take a look. It looked like it changed direction.
Absolutely. It looked like he got a piece of that ball, and hopefully, and I don't think they can take a look at it, but that ball definitely changed directions.
And now they are going to wave him back.
Yeah, if you take a look at it, we'll slow it down for you. Looked to me like it changed directions, and John Gibbons now is giving him an earful. And he gets run out of this one.
Yeah, he's going to have to watch the rest.
Now figuring once you get run, you might as well talk to Gabe Morales. He's talking with Ted Barrett. He's already been thrown out.
Get your money's worth. originally called drop third strike and safe at first. Now a foul ball for Darwin Barney as Gibbons finishes his soliloquy. Here's another look at it, slowed down even more and zoomed in.
It's a curveball. Barney goes out. Looks right there like it changes directions after he swung. And in fact, if he just flat out missed it, I don't think he'd have been standing in the batter's box. I think he realized that he tipped it. Otherwise, if you miss it, flat out miss it, you're going to first base. You're not going to wait for an umpire call. He didn't do that.
Back to it. 1 ball, 2 strikes from Robertson. Check swing. That was part of Robin Ventura's argument. He said the guy didn't go anywhere.
Yep.
Robertson to Barney. 2 and 2. Now full. 4th reliever used tonight for the White Sox. Cabrera on deck. And some folks who are fans of the team from the north have a little glimmer of hope. In the ninth, 3 and 2. Check swing, no go, ball 4.
The appeal to Angel Hernandez. It's a high, tight fastball. Barney didn't even come close to swinging.
Maybe a choice word or two on the way to 90 feet. 1 on, 1 out for Cabrera. You mentioned earlier his ability to handle the bat.
Yeah, I don't think with 1 out he's thinking about laying one down here, but just in case, Saladino is in at the cut of the grass at third.
At the very least, a pretty good contact option for the Blue Jays. Cabrera shoots it through the left side. 2 on, 1 out.
First hit of the night. It's a fastball on the outer third, and Robin out there to have a talk about what they want to do with Donaldson.
Even if he wanted to send Don Cooper, he couldn't. Don Cooper was ejected.
He was gone, arguing a balk call earlier.
So Josh Donaldson, who has been absolutely scalding the baseball recently, a hit in 14 of his last 15, has a pair of career hits against David Robertson, and both are home runs.
I remember one, if not both, to right center field in Toronto.
To third, Saladino knocks it down. The tag, no save.
Rick Renteria wants to check to see if the replay shows that he got him before he got in or not. Took a dive at him, but he tagged him in the body, and Robin wants him to take a look. He's got nothing to lose by it.
This should show us.
Boy, it's awfully close, and remember, the call on the field is safe.
That's going to be tough to overturn.
And from that angle, this would be the definitive angle.
You can't see where the hand
no.
hits the bag. Well,
In that case, looked like he got him, but
the hesitation is, does the hand only hit the bag when it collapses forward, or does it hit the bag earlier? And you can't pair the two to make one time-matched angle. You got to do it off the angle you have.
Well, if they call him out here, John Gibbons could get thrown out again.
Get thrown out of the clubhouse for his anger in his office.
This one's going to take a while because they're looking at it, slowing it down, and see if there is definitive proof. Boy, it's close at third.
You can't get both the tag and the hand in one shot. It's either bases loaded, 1 out, or 2 down.
It's really hard. There, for an instant, it looked like you might have had him, but you look at the hand. Marlo Hale, most likely the acting skipper. Darwin Barney talking over with Saladino.
It's a huge call. Encarnacion's next. Robertson trying to stay loose as the review continues. Sox took the lead on an RBI single from Todd Frazier in the 7th inning. Trying to hang on to it tonight against the Jays.
Looks like it could very well be one of those calls where if he was called out, it would stand. He was called safe. So let's see if it stands or if it's overturned.
Well, either way, you can't argue that they haven't done their due diligence.
No, they're looking at this one as long and hard as they can.
Barney and Saladino might decide it. They've been talking for a while over at third. Here is the call. Safe at third. Bases loaded off the single from Donaldson, his 2nd hit. Three minutes, 10 seconds of review. And now the heartbeats quicken. Robertson with the bases loaded around him against Encarnacion, who's just 1 for his last 14 and has never hit David Robertson very well. One ball, no strikes. Barney at third, Cabrera at second, Donaldson at first.
Encarnacion's grounded into 8 double plays this year.
The Jays lead baseball with 72 double plays rolled into. Ball and a strike. This has gotten tense fast.
Career with the bases loaded. Encarnacion has been as good as there is around.
Robertson glares at his 33-year-old prey, Encarnacion. 1-1. Ball and 2 strikes.
Well, it was a good spot to throw it. It was just barely nicked the plate, but it was up and in, and Encarnacion could not catch up to it there. A repeat wouldn't be a real bad situation.
Ball and 2 strikes. Bases loaded, 1 down. Hammered foul.
Wanted a fastball away, and he got it there. Got Michael Saunders in the on-deck circle.
Feels like the last week of Sox games have been played with the bases loaded, one way or the other. 1-2 for Robertson. Upstairs, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Saunders, who's been on twice, lies in wait. Who will it be a moment to remember for? Robertson to Encarnacion, 2-2 is low. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The lead on the line. Bases loaded, 1 out, 3-2. Encarnacion awaits. He struck him out. Robertson's an out away.
4 strikeouts tonight for Encarnacion, none bigger than that one. As he put it on the outer third, it was at the knees. He swung through it. And now 1 more out to get. Good location. A 4-bagger for Encarnacion, and Avila wants to have a word with David Robertson.
The opposition is Michael Saunders, who's been on twice tonight and has scored twice. He's in the top 20 in Major League Baseball in on-base percentage. He gets a base here, the game's at least tied. Robertson popped him up. Saladino and Anderson, and it's Tim Anderson grabbing the final out. Robertson wriggles free, and the Sox win the opener. 3-2 your final.
Probably got that pitch in on his hands. It was off the plate exactly where he wanted it, and he got the pop-up and miraculously got out of a very tough jam. The Sox win the opener of the series, and they win a 1-run game.
Back to 500, 37 up, 37 down. The Sox have taken all 4 this season against the Blue Jays. So, for our director, Jim Angio, our producer, Mike Leary, our associate producer, Dave Ross, our tech manager, Mark Harper, and the executive producer, Jim Corno Jr., he's Steve Stone. I'm Jason Benetti saying so long from U.S. Cellular Field. Coming up next, Subaru Postgame Live with Chuck and Bill. You've been watching Chicago White Sox baseball on Comcast Sportsnet. Good night.